Today, Amy Moses is our guest. Amy is the Vice President of Marketing and Communications at EscrowTab. And we're going to talk not only about her journey, but some of the things that she's been giving a lot of thought to when she meets with her girlfriends and talks about career. Amy, it's great to see you.
Thank you, Marcia. It's so great to be here. And thank you for everything you've done for all the women in the mortgage industry. When I do talk to my girlfriends from other industries, I can sense a little bit of jealousy that they don't have their own mPower in their industry. So thank you.
We're going to have to bring it to them.
That's right.
That's right. So we're going to get to that in a minute, because when I asked you to do this interview, you had just been meeting with your girlfriend, having a deep conversation. So that's a little teaser for everybody. So don't stop. We're going to get to that about the third question. But for those people who don't know you, Amy, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Sure. Well, I have to say that I grew up on a farm in Iowa, because that somehow always comes out. And my first job was picking up rock and walking beans in the fields. And I feel like that taught me the hard work and the tenacity and the perseverance that has taken me in my career path. But my first real job, I should say, was an internship at GMAC Mortgage, which I needed to complete my college degree, and I had no idea what a mortgage was at the time. And then that led me into a 10-year career at GMAC Mortgage, where I landed in the training department doing instructional design, and I got to learn a little bit about everything, because I created training courses for collections and loss mit and customer service, and here's how you explain an escrow analysis, right? And then at one point, somebody approached me saying, hey, I'm going to have this job open for marketing for subservicing. Would you be interested? And I thought, I don't know anything about marketing or subservicing, right? But I took the leap, went for it, and then that's how I started down the path of marketing. And eventually I left Iowa, GMAC, moved to Colorado, got my only job outside of the mortgage realm, which was working for a Christian publishing company, and learned a lot there, because I was not only doing marketing, but also product management. So I had to learn about inventory and pricing and a bunch of other things. And as I was reflecting back on this journey, I thought, that's the only job I've had where somebody completely hired me blindly. And she told me she hired me for the person that I am, right? Not necessarily what my resume was like, but who she saw in the interview. And so that's just something for people to consider, right? That you might get hired not just for all of your skills and your knowledge, but for who you are. Once I left that job, I got in at MERS, where I had another 10-year span at a company, again, starting in training. But eventually I started raising my hand for a lot of things, and somebody turned to me and said, how do you know about all this? And I said, I have a marketing background. And nobody knew, because of course, somebody looks at your resume when you get hired, but after that, nobody's looking at your resume again and again, right? When new people come in, management turns over. And so you really have to advocate for yourself and explain what your skills are and volunteer for projects, which I did, which led to me leading marketing at MERS. And then a couple of the ICE acquisitions happened. And I decided I want to step away from the big, 6,000 person corporate world that ICE was, and try something a little bit different. And so I went to SnapDocs, which was a startup, learned a great deal there, and then came to EscrowTab, which is a smaller level of startup, but had an opportunity to join the leadership team and really build something I believed in from the ground up.
Oh, that's quite a career. And from one farm girl to another, at least when I grew up on the farm, it sounds like you did, we never envisioned a career, let alone a career in mortgage finance, right?
Exactly.
And look. So as you navigated, I love the fact, because I had something similar in my journey, where you had to step out of your comfort zone. There became a crossroads where you had to do something that you weren't, whether you want to say trained for or educated for, or whatever the word was, but you had to take a leap of faith. What is the best advice as you were navigating all of these different careers, the long ones and some of the changes that you made when you weren't at a company for 10 years? What's some of the best career advice you got during that climb of the corporate ladder?
Yeah. Well, Marcia, some of the best advice I received was at the very beginning, back at GMAC. I took a Franklin Covey training course. I have to say, GMAC was so good about providing personal and professional development opportunities for their employees. And during this course, they talked about the circle of influence and circle of concern, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
I am.
And I realized one of my manager at the time was leading that way, right? Like she was teaching us, leading by example, to focus our time and our energy on our circle of influence instead of our circle of concern. And so I started modeling my behavior after hers, where she wasn't waiting for people to ask her to do things. She was taking the initiative, right, within her circle of influence to create proposals. Back at the time, it was called computer-based training, right? What e-learning is now. Oh, we need a computer-based training system. Yes. Right? Nobody was asking her for this or telling her. She just saw it as a need. But it all stemmed from that circle of influence and circle of concern. So as a manager, I have been known to write that on my whiteboard when somebody comes into my office and point to that. Is it a circle of influence? And if it is, we'll talk about it together and figure it out. If it's just a circle of concern, let's not waste our energy on that.
That's great. That's really great advice. And a reminder, because we went through, when I was at Freddie Mac, we did a lot of training, and Covey training was one of the programs that we went through. So now, last week, was it, you were sitting with your girlfriend?
Yes.
Having a deep conversation about, are women limiting themselves in the workplace? And if so, what can we do about it? Do you want to talk a little bit about how that conversation came about, but also what did you guys come up with?
Sure. Well, I first thought of this concept, or really started thinking about it, Marcia, when I was reading a book, Let Your Mind Run by Dina Castor. She's a famous American runner. She won the bronze medal at the marathon in the Olympics one year. And she was telling a story about running in one of her first big international races, and she just wanted to finish. She wanted to race with the best is what her goal was, right? It was the first time she was racing with other big runners like Paula Radcliffe from Great Britain. And so it was, at the end, it was her and Paula neck and neck, and she thought, this is so great, I'm running with the best. Paula sprinted to the finish, broke the tape, and won. And Dina realized at the end, Paula's all bent over, huffing and puffing, and Dina's thinking, I feel fantastic. Well, she thought, if I feel fantastic, why didn't I sprint to the finish, right? And then she realized, because mentally her goal was to run with the best, not beat the best. And so she had been mentally blocking herself from winning. And so my girlfriends and I were discussing that concept of that mental block that we sometimes get, and why is that? And so the things we came up with were, one, we don't often enough reevaluate our goals, right? Like we say we want to be a director of our department, but once we've reached that, we think, okay, we've made it, and we don't reevaluate again. Another one that surprised me that we talked about was being scared, right? Being scared, not necessarily of the failure, but being scared to stand out. But as I thought about this more, it makes a lot of sense, because I ask a lot of people what they love most about their job. And the vast majority of people, what they love most is their colleagues, their coworkers, the people they work with. So it makes sense, I think, especially for women, that we don't want to stand out, because we value those relationships with our colleagues. And if we do something to try to stand out or put ourselves above the rest, I think we are afraid that that will damage those relationships, right? Which we value so highly. So the fear of failure, the fear of standing out, the mental limitations, and also I think we're being held back by our job descriptions, where we think we're in a certain role with the title, and here's what we're supposed to be doing. And I would never be sitting here with you now if I paid any attention to job descriptions or what I was supposed to be doing. But I feel like a lot of women do, right? They're like, okay, here's the 10 things you're supposed to do and be good at, and you'll do those 10 things to the best of your ability, but not look outside of those 10 things.
Well, and I think you were talking about your career journey, and it was clear your skills could transfer. They weren't necessarily the direct skills for that particular job, but you when she interviewed you and spoke to you and saw you, she saw that what you had inside you were the skills that could transfer and be successful in that job. And I also think that's what limits us. We look at our next opportunity and think, oh, well, I've never done that before, not realizing you already possess skills that will make you successful in that job.
Exactly.
So our next generation, the mortgage finance industry, we have a lot of young professionals coming up, and I'm seeing more and more of them at events, which is great. What advice would you give the young professionals coming into the mortgage industry, how to be successful?
Yes, very exciting to see all of these young mortgage professionals. And I would tell them to learn something early that, maybe women of our generation haven't learned, or took us a long time to learn, I should say, which is to focus on your personal branding, because I think we were kind of brought up to be the company person, right? Like, I'm Amy Moses with EscrowTab, right? You're Marcia Davies, COO of MBA, right? Founder of mPower. But outside of that, right? If you were taken out of this position in this industry even and put somewhere else, right? Like, what would your brand be? And that really comes down to two things: values and visibility. So what are your set of values that you want to be known by and as, right? What is that for Marcia Davies? What is that for Amy Moses? And I've defined what those are, and then how do you make those visible, as well as making your accomplishments visible? And that's really determining how you need to be visible within your organization, and then, if it's important to you, outside your organization as well, right? And in a conference I was at last year, I shared how when I was at group publishing, every week I just started listing the accomplishments of our department and sending it off to my manager, who, totally unbeknownst to me, was sending it on to the CEO and COO. And I had no idea, but I was just trying to bring more visibility to our department, because it wasn't the vacation Bible school, which was the prominent area of the company. We were a little bit less known. And so I was just trying to do that to raise our visibility. But then months later, something was said to me about that. And I realized, oh, right, I'm bringing this visibility to me and the work I'm doing as a part of it. And, I feel like I'm very intentional in what I do, but I kind of fell into the visibility that I now have on LinkedIn with my Moses's Musings, because people were asking me about events I was going to, conferences, who's there, what's the buzz, how many people, is it worthwhile? So I started posting about it, and then that was bringing visibility to all of these events and people who were directing the events and speakers, right? So it was so much more than bringing visibility to myself. I was shining the light on so many other people. And so I think that's part of that advice too, with your personal brand. Like, how do you want to share authentically, not only about yourself, but about those you're interacting with as well?
And it has become part of your brand. When I was talking to a friend of mine today on my way into work, and I said, oh, I'm interviewing Amy Moses. She goes, I never met her, but I follow her now on LinkedIn. So sometimes when you're doing it, you don't realize the far reach you have, but it has made you more visible in the industry and such a great leader as well. Thank you so much, Amy, for spending time with me today.
Thank you, Marcia. It was such a pleasure to be here.